The world has woken up after a day of heated debate in the cricketing fraternity. Our focus on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday T20 is on the game at the Firozshah Kotla in just under half an hour from now. It's Delhi against Chennai. This should be an interesting toss-up given the clash of cultures, the clash of styles, the youthful exuberance of Delhi and of course the experience, the grand experience of Chennai. Captains already on their way out for the toss. We'll give you updates in just a few minutes. I've got Deep Das Gupta and Brad Hodge, who spent a fair amount of time on Twitter in the last, 15 hours, having a look at what everyone's had to say about the Mankading incident. Not to mention, even the start of this game happens to be with Ricky Ponting, MS Dhoni and Javagal Srinath having a chat on field and Ricky Ponting emulating what could or could not constitute illegal Mankad.
Listen, this debate's been going on for ages, right? And it's go on for ages, the way the whole thing happens. And good in a way that you've got a talking point straight away in the first week of IPL itself.
Are you worried though that we could see a lot more of it? Or are you thinking it's going to be an isolated incident?
No, I think this should be an isolated incident. I don't think there'll be many cricketers in the world which would actually go ahead and perform that act. And I think that what we'll see now is a little bit of clarity and hopefully around what is a grey area. So I think this is a good example just to point out. But just on yesterday, there was a lot of controversy about what happened with Ashwin. But there was a lot of good cricket played yesterday in that game as well. There was some fantastic performances. So I expect nothing different today either.
And there's an interesting call that's been made by Shreyas Iyer, who becomes, I think, the first captain to win the toss and want to bat first in this IPL. Delhi have taken the call to bat first. Deep, first reaction?
Maybe they're backing their bowlers to do the job. If you look at the batting lineup of Delhi, they're predominantly a lot of youngsters and they're top heavy. Maybe that's one of the reasons why they would want to bat first.
And how does that play to CSK? Chasing, I'm not sure it's going to be a 70 that they're chasing today.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. I mean, we're so used to just the captain winning the toss and bowling, and it's just thrown us off. I mean, the Firozshah Kotla, I think the average first innings score is around 160 or an average first innings winning score. So they're going to have to put on a pretty good performance with the bat. But I think this is a good show of faith between the Delhi Capitals to say that, look, we're in good touch, our players are in good touch, and we're actually going to back our bowling unit as well to defend whatever we can get.
Now, this is some very interesting news that's coming, not just that Shreyas Iyer has won the toss and that he's decided to bat first and try and put the runs on the board and put pressure on CSK. But the one change he's made is that he's excluded the pace of Trent Bolt and he's brought in the Indian leg spin of Amit Mishra. So there's no place for Sandeep Lamichhane still, and Rahul Tewatia keeps his place too. No Avesh Khan, Ishant Sharma, the experience of Ishant Sharma continues. No other changes, scheme of Paul, because Chris Morris has still not joined this team. That's a big one, Haji, to leave out the overseas player, not go for Lamichhane, going for the experience of Amit Mishra. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I don't mind it actually because I think that was one thing which was a bit glaring the other day in the fact that they just missed those 4 overs. With Mishra, you're actually going to get 4 overs out. He's a good bowler. He might not be that mobile in the field, but I'm not sure why they haven't picked Sandeep there. I mean, what a great opportunity to get a young kid into the fixture. Morris will definitely come back in the 11 when he's fit, and then it looks a formidable side. Now, Kimo Paul was pretty good last game, but just for me it was an opportunity, especially when you got Axar Patel there as backup. Tewati can bowl a couple if things go pear-shaped for Sandeep. I'm not sure they've missed the trick
It's actually interesting. I mean, we need to figure out whether he's got any niggles or not, because this is surprising. I mean, it's not that you've picked another overseas. You haven't picked another overseas. You've got 3 overseas. You had that opportunity and you haven't taken it. So it'll be interesting to see. And obviously, I mean, Mishra being Mishra, he's been there for ages. He's got the experience behind him. So at the end of the day, what you were actually looking for was getting another leg spinner in, especially against CSK, and got a leg spinner.
There's no Amit Mishra in their first team because they didn't pick him in the first game.
Yeah.
And now there's room for him, but not at the expense of Tewatia. What do you make of the choice of the two leggies?
Interesting part is the pitch. It seems that it's going to, obviously the pitch is slower and lower at Firozshah Kotla, but I think it'll start turning, is what Shreyas Iyer thinks, because he's batting first, and then he's changed a medium pacer with a spinner. So I think that's how they're reading the pitch.
This takes us to our first poll of the day, that Sandeep Lamichhane is missing in spite of the great form he's been in 2020 cricket. Should Delhi have picked him? They did have the option. They decided to drop Trent Bolt, so the overseas option would have opened up, but they've gone with 3 overseas players. So those are the two reactions. Start getting busy on Facebook and tell us what you think. Even send your questions if you'd like to Brad and Deep on the subject. 3 overseas players for Delhi, also 3 overseas players for Chennai. They are unchanged. So a rare day when both teams have fielded 3 overseas players in the IPL. So no changes at all, Haji, for CSK. Perhaps again hamstrung with the fact that I don't think David Willey is still with this team, but even otherwise, looks like MS is quite happy with this combination.
Yeah, it's not surprising, is it, that you pick your first side at home and it does well, and then your first game away, you're not going to make too many changes. The wicket itself, if it looks like it's going to spin, pick going on that Delhi side that they've chosen, then that side will be certainly accustomed to doing a good job on that wicket.
You are still, it's not maybe concerns on the right work, but you still have a few doubts on the Chennai bowling.
Yes, I do. When you look at that playing 11 again, there are quality bowlers. There's no two ways about it in terms of spin. But when it comes to fast bowling and especially death, you've got Bravo, Shardul and Deepak Chahar. Deepak, doesn't really bowl in the death.
He bowled 4 on the trot with the new ball.
Exactly, with the new ball, and they depend a lot there on Bravo and Shardul Thakur. And if required, they don't have a third option there. Watson hasn't been bowling that much. He bowled quite a few times in the death last season, but this year he hasn't really bowled. So that's where I think could be an issue, and especially on this surface, even though obviously looking at both the captains and their decision, it seems the pitch will turn a bit. But it's a smallish ground. As I've mentioned this before, even the miss hits, they go for 6s here.
Right, and maybe the approach that Shreyas Iyer is adopting along with the Delhi Capitals is that the Indian batting would bat first, and the promise that it showed and the form that it showed in the first game, and pile up the runs. Shikhar Dhawan was amongst the runs. We know what Rishabh Pant did. So perhaps that's the way to go. Let's talk a bit about their reliance on the Indian batting. And maybe that's one way of approaching even this particular opponent. Get heavy runs on the board, because that's something that will test CSK. Thoughts, Haji?
Look, I think it's a good tactic.
Yeah.
I mean, MSD is a master at actually strangling opposition, batting units. So if CSK went out there and put on a total of 160, 170, he'll feel he'll be able to get the job done, even with that vulnerable bowling unit, as you do point out, Deep, which I firmly agree with. But I like the ambition of the Delhi Capitals. They've got out to their first home game. They've obviously liked the way they went about their work at the Wankhede. And I think that if they keep playing like that, they'll be able to defend most things. I like the change, even though their bowling was a little bit vulnerable as well. Yeah. They've brought in that banking 4 overs of Misra versus Labachani, but I think it's a good move.
The other important thing about the bat first is, if you look at again their batting side, there are a lot of youngsters, top heavy. They don't really have, without Chris Morris, somebody at number 6, 7 to kind of bank on to finish games.
Right.
So from that perspective also, if you look at it, I think it's a good call. You all the youngsters said, just go out there, express yourself. Don't worry, you get 160 or 200. Just go and bat. And then, the experienced bowling unit will look after the defending part.
Okay, that's to relieve pressure perhaps off the batting, but their batting's been in good touch. Just have a look at how the Indian batsmen have fared in the IPL last few years. And, we're looking at this list, Deep, and we spoke of the Shikhar Dhawan swap with the 3 players for Sunrisers, and then we started saying maybe it's a great deal for Sunrisers. But let's just leave those 3 players out and look at Shikhar Dhawan in isolation. Those numbers are more than decent for all of them, and you know what Prithvi Shaw's capable of. Dhawan, does he add something to this Delhi team, just a sense of security perhaps, around which some of these guys can play a little more freely? You know what Prithvi and Pant and all are.
Yeah, the seniority and the experience, because you have Shreyas, a youngster, and even though he's a captain, but he's a youngster, Prithvi, youngster. So when you look at this side is made for the next 4-5 years, right? They've invested in youth and talent, and you need one guy out there, as which Shikhar is, to kind of guide or mentor those guys and the experienced head in there. So when we were talking about that trade, we were looking at the trade per se. We're not talking about Shikhar as a batsman.
Yeah, but just if you look at it, let's say it was only Shikhar Dhawan who went to Delhi in the auction.
And if you look at Shikhar Dhawan alone as a batsman, I mean, he's done his job for Sunrisers before, or wherever he's played before. And I mean, as a batsman, there's no two ways. He's a gun batsman.
He does a job. Now, there are 2 mantras I've seen teams employ in the IPL, Haji. One overseas explosive opener, right? And if that works for you, then great. Otherwise, you need some solid Indians.
Yeah.
And Delhi tried that with Colin Munro. They didn't get it. They've tried, I think, Jason Roy too. They didn't get it. Somewhere they've identified and said, instead of going for another opener, let's just find it's somewhere. I'm trying to think of how this makes sense to Delhi and their side, this side.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I mean, I thought actually Jason Roy did a pretty good job. But having said that, though, when you can find true class Indians. It's difficult to find. They got their hands on Shikhar Dhawan, who, going on his record, he's not someone who gets out early. It allows these free-spirited young players to go in there, whack the ball around, and then they've invested in other ways. So now you've got some others, internationals who can bat deeper now. Ingram, Morris will come back in.
It's actually quite a well-thought team, which Delhi's had even in the past.
Yeah.
But it seems like this works for them, or this could work for them.
Yeah, it looks like some great structure. So for me as well, that the left hand of Shikhar Dhawan also as well just creates a little bit of an issue. It doesn't allow players, opposition to dictate with some spin. Prithvi Shaw at the other end, still a young man. So having an Indian opening batter at the other end will just put him in good stead.
Yeah, and with Chris Morris coming back, if you look at number 6, 7, that's an area where they will still need to work on. You have someone like Kemo Paul who's more of a bowler who can bat, not really an all-rounder. But Chris Morris coming back, this team looks really good.
To just close the conversation on Shikhar Dhawan, have a look at his pretty flash card. Let's just see if there are numbers that can give us a talking point from it. I love these flashcards, they're so colourful. Strike rate of the first 10 balls, 113. Now, we keep talking about roles, and Ajinkya Rahane at times is the bigger point of discussion in this sort of conversation, Aji. But Shikhar also is in that mold. He likes to sort of go at that 120 strike rate. Rarely do you see him go more than that. Is there a role that he's been told, and will it depend on how the others are batting around him?
No, I think it's summing up the conditions. He's batted at Hyderabad for the last few years, and it's a pretty much a low-scoring ground. You see spin come into play. It's got David Warner at the other end, so he can actually allow some freedom of Shikhar Dhawan to bat exactly the way he wants. And I think that's how he'll approach this to the Delhi Capitals as well. He knows the firepower's in the middle. He doesn't have to do anything outrageous. He knows that Shaw at the other end is going to go hard anyway. So, I think it's a great partnership.
All right, let's take the conversation forward now. Well done on Shikhar Dhawan returning to his home ground, his home state, to play after, 10 years in the IPL. So, let's see how he goes. He's going to have a crack of it first up. Look at our results of the first poll. Sandeep Lamichane's absence. Is he missing? He is being missed. I thought he might be missed on our Facebook Live, where there's a lot of support for Sandeep Lamichane. 88% say yes, Delhi have missed a trick, they should have played him. Let's see if in time that proves to be a decision they'll regret. What about poll number 2? Delhi or Chennai? Get busy, guys, because this is something I'm quite intrigued by. The start that Delhi have had, it's Shreyas Iyer saying at the toss that the positive vibe seems to be spreading infectiously, so we'll see if they start as favourites in your eyes. Now, Rishabh Pant's going to be key to any chance that they might have of wanting to beat the experience of CSK, and we're going to talk about him. First, let's hear from Ricky Ponting, who is, of course, the head coach now of the Delhi Capitals.
Yeah, well, look, I've known for a couple of seasons now that Rishabh Pant's got that X factor about him, but what I'm liking more and more is how he's turning that into match-winning performances more and more often as well. I think if you look at the back half of last season, when he was probably playing his best was when our team played our best and won most games. That even yesterday, we'd set up a really good platform for him to go in and express himself at the end of the innings. I think Colin Ingram did a great job yesterday at changing the momentum of the game for us and giving us a platform for Rishabh to go in and finish off the innings. But look, he's something special. I made mention of that in the team chat that we had last night. You don't see innings like that every day.
That is Rishabh Pant's flashcard. Some very flashy numbers, different strike rate, different from the numbers that we saw of Shikhar Dhawan. Does it happen, Aji, that because in the IPL, if you start well, you tend to have 2 or 3 good ones together? That sort of innings Pant had may have made an opposition who's up next think, right, let's plan for Pant. And how do you plan for it?
Well, there's a lot of planning that goes into it, and it goes out the window as soon as he knocks the first one out of the park. I've studied him. And I really can't see any weakness. The one person I can sort of relate him to is an Australian, Glenn Maxwell.
Yeah.
And Glenn was actually, when you bat with him, if they bring third man up, he actually takes as a challenge to hit it back over third man as if he's making a fool of the captain.
Yeah.
I think Rishabh actually does that. He's so talented, so good. I think he's in for a huge tournament.
The thing is that we think that he favours the leg side because of the swing, but that doesn't go to show that he has no real apparent weakness or struggle on the offside either. He can hit boundaries over mid-off and cover it.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, there's no apparent weakness as such, but it's just that his mind, that's the issue. As Haji very well put. I mean, it's that ego thing, you know, I can take this bowler on and wherever I want to kinds. But the other thing, he's got to be a little careful of late. What we've seen is against the off spinner. I mean, against Australia, he's
going to have Harbhajan Singh.
So he's got to have, in the last game, there wasn't any off spinner for MI. So didn't really play an off spinner MI. So yeah, Bhaji with that kind of form, we show that he showed in the last game. If he can come and bowl the right length and get the ball to turn, because this pitch should turn.
Yeah,
right?
You can count on Harbhajan to be accurate at least.
Exactly, and get a little bit of turn and purchase of this surface. That will be interesting matchup.
Do the numbers suggest something on Rishabh Pant versus certain bowlers or certain types of bowlers? Let's have a look. Strike average and strike rate against off spin. Rishabh Pant, invite the off spinners, bring them on. 48 the average, 156 the strike rate. And I mean, look at that, 159, 163, 156, 162, 160. If anything, slow left arm, at least the average drops. But if he's going to get 20 at a strike rate of 160, you take that. Deep, your point is more that Nathan Lyons bowled well to him.
Yeah, I mean, also the fact that Nathan Lyon is a different class bowler. I mean,
and also it's been in 50-over cricket where Pant is still trying to figure out when to sort of go and when not. This format, good luck bowling that.
Absolutely, but you know, if you're looking at any chink in that armour would be something like that. I mean, people are still trying to figure out, as Haji mentioned, he studied him. He hasn't figured out. I mean, everyone else is trying to do that as well, if there is any chink in that armour. And as of now, there's not anything which is very obvious.
Yeah, I know what Warnie says sometimes when he's a batsman who's just going great guns. He says about Kohli recently, take away one side.
Yeah.
Then just sort of everyone bowls full outside, off stump, bowls wide, make that sort of arc impossible. Would you? Do they have the bowlers to execute?
Well, you
that?
try and play on that ego, don't you? You try and take it out that, hey, we're going to stack this. We know you're good over there, but can you hit it over there when the ball's out there? He'll try it. He'll step across the stumps and take it on. You're trying to force an error with some unforced clarity. Look, I like the odd bumper even now and then. He's still good. He gets underneath it and scoops it up.
Yeah.
Problem is, Farosha Kotler's about 42 metres to get it over the fence. So, you know, if you had that in your arm, if you had some genuine pace, but I'm not sure what CSK bowlers have.
Okay, some more on Rishabh Pant and numbers that might interest you. Just have a look. This is Pant against pace. These are ball types, right, in T20s. We've really done some homework. We're trying to get Rishabh Pant out in our studios at least. That's what we've got for you. Seamed out 5 times, strike rate of 101. The off cutter, straight, full toss, seamed in. Right, so I guess the only one you're looking at is if the ball does something.
and a good old Yorker.
Yeah, and a good old Yorker. That never hurts anybody. But that Yorker may not come at pace today. That's the other thing. That's the concern you have. That Bravo's also he used to get nippy at times in his best days when he's bowling the quick one, but they don't have the outright pace.
They don't, and that's where I believe that CSK would need some more resources in their bowling attack, especially in the death. They've struggled. We've shown those numbers n number of times how they've struggled in the death overs. And that's where Rishabh can really hurt CSK.
They've still not announced a replacement for Lungi and Giri. They might want to consider that, the Chennai Super Kings. So let's move forward. They're going to rely on some of their seasoned players. Shane Watson's one of them, and he didn't have the most auspicious start to his IPL, out for naught in the first game, sweeping to Yuzvendra Chahal. But he's an in-form Shane Watson. He's going to be up for a challenge against spin. We're just looking at his recent form, Ajay's Big Bash and the PSL. But sometimes when you get a duck first up, it could go pear-shaped very quickly. Shane Watson's coming into this with good form.
Yeah, he's coming in with good form, but he looked a bit sluggish at the crease the other night. Whether it was just the first game of nerves and whatever, but
that was a dreadful pitch as well.
Yeah, I mean the pitch wasn't great. It didn't come on, but look, I think he's in good touch. We've shown what he can do in the final last year, and he's a quality player. I mean, he has been for over a decade. So. Once he gets off to a good start, he's hard to stop.
Sometimes it's the other way around also for older players. If they get 2 single-digit scores quickly, then would you sometimes start thinking, if it's a youngster, you know what he's going to do. Suddenly you look at Watson and you think, oh, maybe the PSL, BBL is one thing, but
yeah,
can that happen in the minds of management sometimes with the senior player?
Not in MSD's mind. I
Right.
don't think so at all. I think he's got complete confidence in Shane Watson having a good tournament. I actually think he will have a good tournament. So, for me, the question for Shane was, when he's out of the Australian setup, how's he going to keep up the momentum and be at the top level? He's proven, through those performances that, he's managed that quite well. Yeah,
this is where I think, like Brad points out, it's a different kind of setup at CSK. We'll just look at some numbers for Shane Watson and get take this conversation further. And we are talking about Watson against spin. Look at Watson against Delhi's bowlers. Amit Mishra has some fun against Shane Watson. Akshar Patel doesn't mind either. So you've got two guys that have got him out 9 times in the opposition. That surprised you?
Not really.
No?
You've got spinners there, predominantly Mishra and Akshar, and Ishant Sharma.
But that
gets
record, Akshar Patel against Shane Watson, that's quite interesting.
Yeah, and also Ishant, who gets the ball back into him, he also has this tendency of going across with his front foot, gets out leg before quite a few times in the past. It was what, Watson
leg before
the
Watson.
wicket,
Leg before Watson.
leg before Watson.
Yeah, well, you'd think, you think Shreyas Iyer will give the ball to Akshar Patel, and he needs to step up actually. If those dismissals have happened, then this is a real good opportunity for him to get into Watson and get into that middle order as quick as they can.
He seems to be the kind that, if anything, has slight issues at the beginning, because you've seen Shane Watson absolutely tonk spin as well. Let's make no mistake about the prowess of Watson in 2020 cricket. We've got some more against for Watson against bowlers types. Yeah, we're really digging up today. That's what we've got. Watson against slow left arm. That's what we've got. A strike rate of 107 and an average of 11. Otherwise, you look around, you'd accept most of those numbers.
Yeah.
Slow left arm spin against Watson, from what you know?
Yeah, well, it's been a ploy, isn't it? I mean, realistically, you throw to any Australian, you throw the left arm orthodox in there and see how you go, because it is our Achilles heel pretty much, and he's no different. But interesting, those numbers, before or after 2015. I reckon he'd had some pretty good numbers prior to 2015 in IPL as well. I mean, he's been a tremendous performer, and he keeps delivering.
And listen, this surface will also help him. I mean, with the new ball opening, with the new ball at least, the ball will come onto the bat, and smallish ground. I'm going to back him actually. I'm going to back him to score some runs here.
Okay, we'll find out. First, we have to find out what his target is going to be like. Delhi have decided to bat first. Let's move to our Fab Four contest and have Deep and Haji first pick their 4. I think yesterday I said I'm going to make you pick first, Haji. So you have 22 to pick from.
Yeah, okay.
Enjoy yourself.
I'll go for, I think, Shikhar Dhawan on his home ground return, actually.
All right, you're going for Shikhar.
Colin Munro.
Colin
Sorry, Colin Ingram. I did the same thing as Ricky. I can't go past the Rishabh Pant, and I'm also going to go.
3 Delhi balls.
Yeah, I'm going to go for another one as well. Amit Mishra.
Wow,
Well,
all four
four.
from Delhi.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So you're really backing Delhi.
Yeah.
Are you going to back Chennai to win then?
Yeah,
Deep.
Well, I'm going to go with Shane Watson. I'm going to go with Shane Watson, and I'm going to go with Imran Tahir.
Okay, so
Shane
2 Chennai
Watson,
boys.
Imran Tahir, Shreyas Iyer, and Rabada.
And Rabada. All right, that's a good miss. Okay, so you've got Chennai and Delhi. You got heavily in stacked in favor of Delhi. Am I to guess now that you're backing Delhi as favourites in this game?
Well, not favourites, but I actually think they'll get the job done. Yeah, I think they played some pretty good cricket in the first game. Hard to judge on Chennai's form actually after that first game. It was a scrappy contest, but I think they look in good shape, Delhi.
Deep?
I think Delhi are ahead as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they are a better side. And they're exciting. I mean, look at Prithvi Shaw, Shreyas Iyer, Shikhar obviously there, Rishabh Pant. That's an exciting side. I mean, every time they come out to bat, you're glued to the television.
Tactics for MSD to start with. Are you looking at Deepak Chahar and Harbhajan Singh to start? You got Shikhar on one end, you got Prithvi Shaw the other. How would you go, Haji?
He doesn't like to give his spinners in the game early. He'll see if the ball swings, especially to Shikhar Dhawan. He'll try, the 2 quicks might try and swing the ball back. And if there's no quicks, he'll get Harbhajan on pretty early, I think.
Shardul Thakur didn't have a ball last
but Bhaji would definitely start because Shikhar has had his issues with the off spinners. So Shikhar against Shikhar, Bhaji I believe will start, and Chahar, because obviously that's the reason he's there to swing the
So
ball.
who are you identifying as your death bowlers? You didn't go to that because of the way
Shardul
Bangalore
and
played.
Bravo.
So Shardul, you're going to keep him sort of 4 at the death? Would you do
No,
something?
obviously not. I'll keep 3 or 2. Maybe bowl the 6th over in the power play, and then 1 somewhere in the 14th, and then the last.
All right, give me a number that Delhi would want to get here to put Chennai under some real pressure.
I think 175.
175? Good runs?
Yeah.
175 be good. All right, gentlemen, we'll pick up this conversation at half-time. Let's have a look at the result for you guys. Delhi or Chennai? Wow, that's close. That's as close as you get. 51% say Delhi, 49% say Chennai. just the fact that a Chennai game does not see Chennai as
Yeah.
overwhelming favourites on social media is in itself quite the statement. We'll be back at halftime to figure if Delhi are looking good for that 51%, and if they are looking good for that 170. We'll also be live mid-innings. Remember, at the end of the 10th over, we'll show you what our forecasters suggesting and get a quick word from Deep and Brad. Thanks very much for joining us on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday T20.